Ready or not, like it or not, the likelihood of Kyle Larson returning to the NASCAR Cup Series for the 2021 season is exceedingly high, and even perhaps more likely if he does return to the Cup Series, he is going to be in race-winning equipment and possibly championship-winning equipment right off of the bat. And his success this season, post N-word controversy, I guess you could say, has been incredible. But the other thing that's kind of been incredible has been what he has been doing behind the scenes to rehabilitate his public image. And in a report published just yesterday in the Sports Business Journal by our pal Adam Stern, the link to that article will be down in the description below. It's looking like we are getting a pretty good sense of where and who Kyle Larson will be racing with in next year's Cup Series. So let's get into it and set the table by talking about the timeline of events that have led us to this point in the Kyle Larson saga. So our story begins April 12th, the Monza Madness iRacing event. Larson says the N-word over the public chat to his spotter. The next day, he was suspended from NASCAR, and the day after that, he was fired from Chip Ganassi Racing. Now, Larson returned to racing on May 8th and had an incredible dirt racing record. Between his May 8th return and August 29th, he won 31 of 54 races, which is a hit rate of an incredible 57%. Nearly 60% of the races Kyle Larson entered, he won. That is just almost unprecedented in the history of motorsport, especially in such a short period of time. However, during this entire period, his eye has been set on a NASCAR return. He's even said as much in an Associated Press interview. However, at the time of recording this video, he is still suspended indefinitely from NASCAR competition, despite going through the sensitivity training that NASCAR requires for someone in his particular position. Now, it hasn't just been the stuff that Kyle Larson has been mandated to do. He has been making efforts off the track in the African American community. He visited the George Floyd Memorial, and while in Minneapolis, he worked with the Santa Foundation and making efforts in the black community. More recently, as Adam Stern in the most recent Sports Business Journal report has been reporting, that he has been working closely with Anthony Martin, who runs a Philadelphia-based STEM program called the Urban Youth Racing School. Now, NASCAR apparently is going to be expanding their work with the school as well, and Martin himself has taken Kyle Larson kind of under his wing and tried to help educate him on some of the struggles of the African American community. Stern is reporting that there was a meeting 2 weeks ago, which included NASCAR CEO Steve Phelps and the Chevy executive, or one of the Chevy executives, particularly the one that's perhaps most important to their motorsports program, Jim Campbell. And this meeting also included Kyle Larson. And of course, why is that important? Well, currently he is suspended from both NASCAR and Chevrolet. Chevrolet did have a partnership with Larson, and while it's unlikely, and we'll talk about this, there's a possibility that Chevrolet could renew their partnership with Larson at least, or at the least, with Larson coming back and driving a Chevy-powered car in the Cup Series. And here's the big key. Larson has been making these efforts away from his personal social media. He's shut it all down. This stuff has not been put out by Larson or his PR team or his PR camp. This has just been stuff that has leaked out and not been heavily promoted. The fact that NASCAR and Chevy and Kyle Larson were all in this meeting together certainly points to the fact that Larson's his battle to improve has been seen by NASCAR and by Chevy, but not been seen in the public eye, and I think that is important. Because let's face facts. Kyle Larson could not have had his N-word incident happen at a worse time in history. Now, I don't want to make the saying of the N-word, especially in the way that he said it, I don't want to belittle that. It was certainly a huge deal. And certainly I think NASCAR reacted and the sponsors reacted probably in the way they needed to at that particular time. But Larson has faced way more punishment, in my opinion, than his crime that he committed. Certainly, I don't think, and you don't have to take my word for it. You can look at a lot of black racing drivers like Willie T. Ribbs, for example, who didn't think that what he said was meant in a hateful way, even though obviously the N-word is a hateful word. I think at worst Larson was ignorant, and I think the further we've gotten away from that, I think that becomes more and more apparent. Someone who wasn't sorry, or someone who thought they weren't in the right, or they were in the right, or even had the right to say that word, would not be making these sorts of efforts. He would be saying, well, screw you guys, I'm just going to drive dirt cars for the rest of my life. The fact that he's willing to make these efforts, willing to get back to the Cup Series, that says to me that there's real change going on. I think, and again, the other thing that I've mentioned before is the fact that he hasn't been promoting this stuff on social media. He hasn't been pointing to himself and saying, hey, look at me, look how virtuous I am. That to me is real change. And again, I don't think, and I never have thought, that Kyle Larson was a racist or anything. I never thought that. Again, I think ignorant was the way to say it, and he would probably say the same thing. I think it's extremely, extremely, extremely likely that he is going to race in the Cup Series next year, especially because when you hear Adam Stern saying that he's probably going to the Cup Series, and you hear Bob Pockrass saying he's probably going to the Cup Series, probably going to Hendrick Motorsports, those two guys usually never miss. And the fact that both of them are saying virtually the same thing makes me think that it's going to happen. I think a lot of people, rightfully so, look at the hurdles, which are NASCAR, which has not unsuspended him yet, and also Chevrolet. And the significance of them being at this meeting, particularly when it's something that involves the black community, certainly says to me that they have seen and they are aware of what Larson has been doing behind the scenes. So, this is why I think, especially because NASCAR is kind of leaning into and I hate to say it this way, leaning into the social justice movement, because that's a hot topic on YouTube. The fact that they're leaning into this, I think there's a real opportunity here with Kyle Larson. He is right now, or could be, the prime example of someone who can reform. Because I think if NASCAR really wants to send this message that they are inclusive, you also have to be inclusive to people who have made mistakes and have atoned for them. Because like I said, when Kyle Larson made his mistake, he made it in a time where racial tensions in this country were at a boiling point, as we saw later on with the killing of George Floyd and what that ended up sparking. Very, very high racial tensions. Also, you had the lockdowns, which everybody was inside. Everybody was paying attention to what was happening on the internet. And there were no sports. There was no sports coverage whatsoever. Really, national coverage was pretty much coronavirus or bust. Kyle Larson says the N-word, and it is international headlines. Everybody talked about that. It was an unprecedented event, and extremely unfortunate for Kyle Larson that he made that mistake at the time he did. That being said, the fact that everybody knows he made that mistake is why I think both NASCAR and Chevrolet will lean into welcoming him back. I think you will see press conferences, possibly advertisements, certainly press releases that state how many efforts Kyle Larson made, how much of a changed man he is, and how excited he is to move forward, and some of the, and I'm sure there will be partnerships, especially with stuff like this Philadelphia STEM school. I think you'll see a lot of that going forward. And I think that he will be welcome back. I think he's going to come back, and I think he's going to be there for Hendrick Motorsports. I don't see how a guy who wants to be in Cup, who can win 60% of his dirt races, and also atone for the mistakes that he made. Because in the past, there's precedent as well. Jeremy Clements is a great example, and nothing against Jeremy Clements, but he said the N-word, was suspended by NASCAR and reinstated. That is the precedent. And certainly, again, this was a very unique situation, but I think Kyle Larson has made the effort to make up for what his crime was, so to speak. But I don't know. What do you think down in the comment section below? I think he should be welcomed back to Cup. I think if NASCAR is serious about inclusivity, you also have to be inclusive to people who have made mistakes, even ones that some people would view as just some of the most abhorrent things that you could possibly do. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Speaking of waiting and seeing, I teased something as coming today that did not come today. But I do know that it is coming tomorrow. And while I can't say exactly what it is, I don't want to betray my sources too much. And I also don't want to break this story before the Indianapolis Motor Speedway wants it out. But I will tell you this. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway is hosting a press conference at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. And it's big news. Big news. Traditionalists won't like it so much. That's my hint. We'll see you in the next video. Subscribe for more motorsport content. Gonna be a lot coming tomorrow. Trust me. We'll see you in the next video.